Hey guys, Tyler here with IGN, today to talk about the Western Roman Empire faction in Total War Attila. Second only to the Ruthless Huns, the Western Roman Empire is Attila's most notable faction, and perhaps Total War's toughest campaign to date. Western Rome is an empire fraught with political troubles and foreign threats that will test even most experienced Total War players. The Western Roman Empire begins a campaign with a huge hold on the world map, over 30 regions to start, but your first threats will pop up early and keep coming turn after turn. That said, Western Rome excels on the back foot, where its disciplined troops can withstand wave after wave of invaders. The Roman cultural trait Imperial Allegiance encourages diversity among its armies, allowing them to support brutal barbarian units alongside their legions. Western Rome's faction trait Cultural Integration ensures that the cities of the empire will continue to grow at a reduced cost to public order. Together, these traits help Western Roman players enforce their control over a number of foreign lands, while keeping the peace at home, both issues they will need to continually address throughout the campaign. From the very first turn, players should consider which regions they are most willing to give up from their empire. This is definitely an unusual approach, but players will quickly find that maintaining full control over the starting empire is practically impossible. Reducing public order and sanitation problems across the Mediterranean should be a high priority early on, for which waterworks and public forums will be your friends. Players may also find that reducing their tax rate early on will reduce dependence on its income, while fixing public order issues in a number of provinces. Your eastern borders will see the first signs of trouble, as Gothic tribes enter the empire within a year of beginning the campaign. Withdrawing your armies from the expendable regions is probably a good move, as the enemy hordes coming at you will likely overpower your thin forces. Abandoning Britannia may be a worthy decision, as its isolation will make it a huge pain to defend. However, it may be in your best interest to fight out sieges and border settlements and attempt to whittle down the enemy numbers as much as you can before giving up your ground. Once you have withdrawn to a more defensible position, building up your infrastructure in central provinces will stabilize your economy and ensure you can begin fielding larger armies. Having at least one military province near Attila will allow you to build and replenish armies to respond to any rising threats. As the Huns and other nomads hit the empire in full force, it's important that you allow them to come to you in a prepared position. Many of the nomadic factions excel in field battles, and their sheer numbers may be too much for your armies if you do not have the proper defenses. If you do manage to withstand a barbarian attack, it's often best to repay the intended mischief with interest and put an end to their faction entirely. Hordes generally take longer to replenish their numbers than your armies, however your enemy's mobility will leave you few chances to fully crush them. Be sure you don't miss an opportunity. Extending the olive branch to any Gothic factions that may have settled down could relieve a major pressure on your faction, and it is important to minimize or delay threats whenever possible. Reaching out to the Sassanids or your eastern brethren may be a wise choice later in the campaign, as their trade will bring you large amounts of income, but don't let yourself get pulled into their wars. The Western Roman Empire possesses a variety of strong units, however one of their greatest strengths lies in their spear and melee infantry. With high morale and excellent skills like the Testudo, Roman infantry are capable of holding positions against overwhelming numbers for a crazy long time. With a healthy mix of spear and melee troops, armies can maintain a battle line that constantly pushes forward against the enemy with swordsmen, while falling back on their spearmen to fend off enemy charges or flanks. To support these disciplined battle lines are a slew of skirmishers, archers, shock infantry, and cavalry units. By utilizing a variety of these units, players can create versatile armies capable of dealing with threats ranging from Hunnic hordes to Sassanid elephants. Alternatively, players can create specialized armies focusing on smaller number of unit types. Because Roman units are generally strong and well disciplined, armies comprised largely of cavalry or missile units can excel in the right situation. Western Rome is a versatile faction on the battlefield. Excelling in defensive engagements, they are capable of holding an advancing enemy in place for extended periods of time while they harass elite troops from afar or outflank weaker units. If the enemy has a lot of missile units, employing defensive testudos will drastically cut down on your losses in a skirmish and waste their ammo. Once the enemy has engaged your troops in melee, pushing forward with attacking testudos will reduce your casualties as your men gain ground. It's best to keep your units near one another and not go chasing any enemy missile units or cavalry too early on. Roman troops are usually pretty heavy, making them tire quick, and that will make them useless in a pitched melee. If your army is heavy on cavalry, it's important to first engage the enemy with infantry so that your cavalry charges hit with maximum effect. If your army is heavy on missile units, it will be best to skirmish with them for as long as possible before committing your men to the melee. With decent missile units and strong infantry, Western Rome is one of the best factions on either side of a siege battle. Cohors, Comitatensis, and Palatina are all great for taking a wall, and their missile weapons allow them to harass enemies while on the defensive. Roman cavalry will not prove very useful in a siege unless the enemy is attacking and low on spear infantry. Field or siege artillery are a must-have on either side of a siege, while Roman crossbows will tear apart attacking infantry. Siege towers are probably the best form of offensive equipment for the Western Roman Empire, as protecting your heavy troops until they reach the walls is best. After the walls are down, Western Roman infantry are great in a street fight, as their defensive testudos can block an entire street for a long time. In dire straits, forming your army into a defensive fist near the city center may allow you to overcome the odds, particularly against an undisciplined foe. With the fate of the Western Empire at stake, will you be able to hold off the Huns? For more news about Rome and Total War Attila, stay tuned to IGN.